I told you it's not ready yet.
Honey, just show it to them.
I'm here to bring you the lowdown on the upcoming Evil Dead the game.
When it comes to asymmetrical horror, 2023 unfortunately finds us, well, in a very stale state. Despite how much DVDs declined in quality and engagement, they're still the juggernaut. They still own this place. But it's not like others haven't tried. Prop Night at least released before driving its player count to a pathetic number. Last year, The Nightmare had some potential, modeling its PvP gameplay after Left 4 Dead's Versus mode. What they did wrong, though, is they decided to take Discord money. Yeah. Did you know Discord had games? Neither did anyone, and their player base really suffered for it. And just a fun little fact, last year actually just went recently free to play on Steam, so if you really want to try it out, it's not quite what it used to be, but give it a shot if you're that bored of DVD. Anyway, the only one remotely close to sealing any of the DVD audience for the longest time was Friday the 13th, which I think comes more from a RP background, but it's still at its moments, and it's unfortunate that the game is now, I guess, in lawsuit hell. But, you know, it's a Jason game. And before anyone brings it up, no, I'm not going to talk about the Texas Chainsaw game. Some cool ideas, but there's not even a beta yet. Back to my point. All these games have attempted and failed to siphon off some players from Dead by Daylight, at least take a chunk out of it. But there's one that got kind of close, and at the very least, it had some amazing ideas in it. I had the pleasure of trying it a couple months ago, and I've loved it ever since. Ladies and gentlemen, Sabre's Evil Dead the Game. The first thing you're going to notice about Evil Dead the Game is just how polished its visual style is. I mean, this baby drips with style. It's one of the best looking of the asym games, and I gotta give huge credit to the artists, the digital artists, for making all the environments, enemies, bosses, and the dismemberment perfectly match their movie counterparts. Something we've been sorely missing in this game genre is true immersion. And this game really makes you feel like a part of the Evil Dead universe as much as the movies do, simply by looking, before you even hear the music or the soundtrack. There's faithful recreations of all the locations from the Evil Dead movies. And the coolest thing is, they're stitched together to create the playable map. Now there's only 3 maps, and that might bum people out, but it is crazy how many awesome landmarks you come across in this game. Evil Dead Cabin, Castle Kandar, they're both here, they're both in the game. And man, they look incredible, and to me they're the gold standard for movie locations being recreated in video games. Now, another thing about the style of this game is it's dark, visually dark. So dark, you get a dumb flashlight battery mechanic. But this is one of the few games to strike a decent balance between visual clarity and stylistic darkness. And in my opinion, it kind of harkens back to design choices from the original Left 4 Dead. There, they give you lights to find where you need to go, but they also line the environment with shadows to mask the spawns of the infected, and loot, adding a risk-reward to go into dark locations. And while we're on the topic of visuals, this is a big section by the way, this game has weather effects, baby! Though there are only 3 maps in the game, each time you load one up, they're given a random weather effect and time of day to alter the map's visuals. As you might predict, daytime sunlight is very boring. But man oh man, the game really shines with its rainy nights, blizzards, and of course, they had to do it, blood rain. Overall, this game is astonishingly good looking. I even find myself hanging out in the menus sometimes, looking at the characters and how close they are to the actual likeness. Well, some are pretty close, like Kelly and Pablo, but others, such as David, are unfortunately off the mark. But let's be honest, getting the actor's likeness, in addition to movie licensing, is a tall order, and I can't count against them if they can't do a great job on every character. Possibly the most impressive part of this game is how simple, and yet at the same time, complex the formula is. Now, it's an asym, so it's 4v1, very similar to Dead by Daylight, but the objectives and tactics on both sides are really different from DBD, and dare I say, a little bit better. Survivors divide their time between looting and locating different parts of a map, and once you find them, you get 2 holdout events at 2 different locations. Now, as you're slashing away across the map, a good survivor is going to keep an eye on their health and supplies, because these holdout events will be continuously spawning demons, in addition to the demon also spawning things. So it's a bit of a gauntlet. Now, looting chests allows you to increase your melee damage, your range damage, base health, shields, stamina. It makes you all around stronger. And you do that with pink F, which is kind of the survivor progression system. So let's say you found your dagger, your map rituals are done. Now you have limited time to loot before the 2-part endgame objective. First thing is banishing the Dark Ones, which requires you to blast them with a channeled energy that looks like something out of Harry Potter. The final obstacle to winning is book phase, which is a 2-minute defense of the book. Probably should have mentioned this though. Anyone who dies at the Dark Ones or is on the ground waiting to be revived when they're defeated will be instantly killed. And when it comes to book phase, anyone who dies during book phase cannot be revived. They're out of the game. So let's say you protect the book, 2 minutes, alive, congratulations, you won. But maybe now you're just a little curious what it's like to be on the other side. What is it like to be Evil Dead's killer, the Deadite? Well, it's nothing like DBD. You're not kicking gens or whacking people. It plays a lot more like last year The Nightmare. You know, traps are a large part of your presence. The Deadite operates on a resource system to directly hurt survivors, as well as raise their fear. You also have charges and cooldowns, which means early game you have very little presence. You will be mainly increasing fear a tiny bit, putting down some units. But intelligent play and taking advantage of mistakes by survivors allows you to easily snowball and progress quicker than the survivors, which is the name of the game in Evil Dead. Among these tools is possession, which allows you to take direct control of survivor or basic unit. This is where you can really dish out damage. Like, this ability fucks people up, man. Anyone caught out alone, or even a small group of 2, can instantly find themselves in hot water if you use this at the right time. That being said, finding survivors is key to playing Deadite. And the speed and maneuverability of Demon Vision allows you to glide across the map, just like the POV shots from the movies. Similar to Pink F, Deadites have their own progression to spend points into. They don't get those points from just opening crates, rather they gain points towards their progression for laying traps and smacking some survivors around. Once you have enough points to progress, you get the ultimate reward of being able to spawn a boss. Bosses vary depending on what Deadite you choose, but generally they're extremely healthy enemies, tons of health, large balance bars, and they can dish out damage and crowd control like no other. They are capable of wiping even the most experienced teams, so I suggest using them to your advantage or losing them. And trust me, losing them hurts because their cooldown is like 3 minutes, which is more than enough time for survivors to recover the momentum. I'll be honest guys, this role is difficult, and you get punished heavily for making even small mistakes as Deadite. If you're a low level, it is a serious uphill battle, so know going in that if you're new, you will be annihilated until you learn. But the best way to get better is to learn about my next topic, combat. One of the main reasons I love this game so much now is because you're able to directly fight back. Yes, you heard that correctly. No more running in circles and throwing down wood, waiting for Tommy Jarvis to help you run into the cops. From the second you start the game, you're tossed into the fight with your own damage numbers and frame data. I mean, you also get guns and crossbows, but ammo is very limited, and it requires looting to stock up on. The first harsh lesson players learn is that all attacks, whether they're melee or ranged, can easily be interrupted by the Deadite knocking you back. The various weapons in this game have speed attributes, which is directly tied to the speed of their attack chain. Yes, this game has attack chains, meaning if you do enough melees in a row, you will end an animation that prevents you from immediately starting another. Deadites, on the other hand, have light and heavy melee attacks, with only one attack chain. That being said, combat is not just a damage check, it's also a dodging check. Whether you're Deadite or human, both sides have access to dodging, which is a huge portion of the learning curve that this game has. If you offer up a little stamina, you can quickly evade any attack and take 0 damage. It's more of a displacement than an actual iframe, but don't worry, survivors do have actual iframes in this game in the form of finishers, which they can do if they chop off enough limbs on any Deadite or elite. And these are true iframes, as you are literally placed into an execution cutscene that makes you immune to damage or knockback. There's nothing the demon can do to you while you're in these cutscenes, so it's advantageous to link them together. To spice up the gameplay, survivors and Deadites both have passives and damaging abilities. Abilities range from flashy theatrics and game-breaking maneuvers to simple stat buffs. It's a fun mix-up in the game, trying to time your ultimate ability to help your team, but like Deadite, this ability has a longer cooldown, and any demon player who successfully baits it out will gain a huge advantage in fighting you. Speaking of which, demon combat is just as interesting, maybe even more so. Depending on which one you choose, you will find Deadite has basic and elite units with different health, hit chains, abilities, and a big variety in overall usefulness. Knowing when to attack is great, but a demon player will lose unless they know what unit to attack with and what abilities to use when. Playing demon requires a large amount of strategy, and believe me, executing good strategy is the best feeling in the game. One huge advantage for them is that they don't use stamina, and they can sprint forever, meaning if you're on the other end as a human, you have no choice but to kill the unit they send on you. I promise you, you'll never be bored playing Evil Dead the game, because there's always a fight somewhere. You have the occasional downtime to loot, but even then, every second counts, as one side's becoming stronger than the other and the balance is constantly shifting. This is possibly the only game in recent memory where even when I lose horribly, I still have fun. Obviously there's more to talk about with this game and learn about it, and if this game were to last another year, I'd love to try to complete a guide series for everything in it. But for now, I just want to get the word out that this game, despite its flaws, is far more polished and balanced than people give it credit for. More importantly, it's something new and different. I think it's super important to give yourself some variety in games, even if it's within the same genre. I came to this game because one day, I just suddenly wasn't vibing with the direction DVD was going in. For the longest time, I needed a new gameplay experience in the asym horror genre. And this gave me something completely new. Allow me to level with you. This game will not be supported forever. I don't even think it's going to be supported another year, which is a shame, because I think they were onto something truly special with this game. But it's not backed by a huge company. It's also pinned itself in the corner by only allowing things from the game IP it exists in. Meaning, once we run out of Evil Dead content to add to it, that's kind of it. The fact of the matter is, there isn't much more to add, without an incredible amount of work from Sabre. But that's neither here nor there. Give this game a shot. It's incredible with friends, and pretty great by yourself. None of my friends wisened up yet, but thanks for listening. I hope the rest of your day is groovy.